The story begins with the strongest female knight, Leo Cornelia. She is not surprised when a young man approaches her. She thinks that he is here for a duel and tries to keep him away from it so that he doesn't get hurt. The young man nervously introduces himself as magician Hooli Dent and makes a shocking revelation that he likes her as a woman. Cornelia is startled at first, but then reprimands him for pulling her leg because she believes that no man would ever love a woman like her, having several scars on her body. Hooli claims that he likes her for who she is, but she menacingly touches her sword and threatens to cut him down if he doesn't vanish. She severely insults him, calling him a commoner. A flustered Hooli insists that he fell in love the moment he laid his eyes on her. She appears baffled, so he explains that he is impressed by the way she carries herself so bravely and by that quiet smile on her face. The knight is definitely confused because someone is actually complimenting her. He emphasizes that he is awestruck by her sculpted abs and loves everything about her. She stares at him disbelievingly, unable to digest the fact that her abs can be so attractive. She furiously points her sword towards him and warns him to stop fooling her. She wonders whether her body is so improper that he was forced to praise her abs. He hysterically points out that her abs are her best feature. He blurts out that he doesn't want some pampered girl who was raised only for her body. He mentions that her abs are strong and well trained on the battlefield and are far more beautiful. From an emotional outburst, he claims she is the most beautiful woman in the world. Cornelia is on the verge of tears as no one has ever treated her like a woman before. Hooli is taken aback by her strange reaction, and then, unexpectedly, she runs away from the scene. The flabbergasted Hooli runs after her, and this is how he met Miss Knight. Leo Cornelia is popularly known as the undefeatable sacred sword. Since birth, she was trained to be a demon fighter and overcome any battle. She is claimed to be a sword that can ward off any of her country's enemies, and now she is opting to fall in love. So when Hooli reaches her, she wonders why he is following her, because nothing terrifies a demon fighter more than a man with feelings. He quickly explains that he is here to help with her quest. She refuses his help, considering herself sufficient to overcome any demon. However, she is open to any new suggestions. An abashed Hooli has none though, so she restrains him for being chummy with her. Out of the blue, his gaze falls on an ugly gash on her waist, and he hysterically points that out to her. Truly, a perfect time to panic, right after offering zero useful suggestions. Apprehensively, she reveals that it happened a while ago. He furiously reprimands her for not telling him before. She is surprised at him for getting so upset, as she cannot think of a reason for getting so hyped up over small injuries. She feels he sounds lame and that nothing can change an ongoing battle. She bids him goodbye and instructs him to head back home. But to her alarm, he pushes her backwards. She freaks out, wondering whether she missed a suddenly arriving wild beast. When he reaches for her abdomen, she becomes suspicious of whether he wants to touch her. She squirms tearfully, making herself vulnerable to him and assuring him that she will not react, no matter what he does to her. Suddenly, a dazzling light generates from his hand, and he directs it towards her wound. Quite relieved, she realizes that he is capable of using recovery magic. She is amazed at him possessing such high-level magic because only a few select people know how to use it. He explains that there is no such thing as a big or small injury. He emphasizes that he, at any cost, cannot be okay with seeing his beloved woman injured. Next, he compels her to stand still since the recovery is almost done. Meanwhile, an ashamed Cornelia is unable to figure out the issue he has. To be fair, figuring him out might require its own advanced magic. Impatiently, she inquires about the time he will take to fondle her stomach. Thoroughly humiliated, he screams at her for thinking so narrowly and claims that it is all a part of the recovery procedure. But then he confesses with flushed cheeks and a shy smile that after touching her sculpted abs subconsciously, he is simply glued to them. It is useless to discuss the consequences faced by him as the fuming Cornelia knocks him down and stomps away, but still, he believes that her six-pack is beautiful. Even while showering, Hooli's confession rings in her ears, making her uncomfortable. She realizes that she has made a terrible mistake. Hesitantly, she gazes at her full reflection in the mirror and reprimands herself for being lightheaded about this whole pointless situation. When her gaze falls on the hideous body scars, she reckons that there is no way it can revert to its feminine state. It is revealed that Cornelia was the only daughter born in a house of knights. She was raised by a strict father, and that led her to dedicate herself to swordsmanship. She shunned the idea of being a girl, and her only purpose was to serve on the battlefield. Currently, she is amidst a horde of demons and fights them off single-handedly. However, she wasn't expecting an enormous number of high-ranking monsters, but still musters up all her strength to lift her sword once again. Alas, she is unable to do so and figures that her right arm has been fractured. The colossal monster roars at her, and she realizes that the going is getting tougher. As the monster rushes towards her, she forces her right arm to lift the sword, but it appears that she has reached her limit. Suddenly, a young man flies towards her and pins her down to the ground. It appears that he is none other than Hooli Dent, and a furious Cornelia probes him about his presence there. She gets more fumed up when he touches her on his favorite place, the abs. When she condemns him, he refuses to let go, explaining that he must confess before she dies. Cornelia is quite annoyed at his baseless reasoning. She shows him the crucial picture in front of him and emphasizes that this is not the right time for confession. She is completely panic-stricken when an enormous punch comes towards them. She irritably tells him to shut up and tries to lift her right again. Instantly, he touches her arm, and before she knows it, her arm becomes as fit as a fiddle. In no time, she manages to knock down the monster in one go. Hooli praises Cornelia for defeating the monster in a single blow, admitting he thought he would die. He apologizes for touching her earlier, explaining he needed to heal her quickly. Nervously laughing, he confesses how terrified he was when he learned she had fought a demon horde alone, calling her a massive idiot for risking herself. Cornelia demands to know why he would save someone like her, a woman she believes has no value. She insists she could never like him and describes herself as ugly and scarred beneath her armor, far from ladylike. Hooli smiles awkwardly and says he would be honored to have her love. She is stunned, but he keeps repeating that he doesn't care how she looks and that he loves her anyway. He even admits she may not be very feminine, but says it doesn't matter to him. Unsure what to make of this, Cornelia punches him in the head. As he yelps, she shouts at him to shut up and complains about how annoying he is. After a pause, she looks away and shyly allows him to love her, despite believing she failed at being ladylike. From that day on, Cornelia began to change. One fine day, Hooli asks her if she can do magic. She denies, explaining that it wasn't necessary for her because she usually chops people down. He points out that there are times when it can be quite useful and then readily offers to give her some lessons. She flashes, claiming that she can even use some magic. Hooli is impressed and is curious about what type of magic she will be casting. However, to his alarm, she accidentally engulfs herself in a massive fireball. He frantically screams, asking about her well-being, but thankfully, she comes out hale and hearty. He anxiously points out that she actually failed in her endeavors. She shrieks in denial, claiming that the magic he just saw was a high-level explosion, but he points out that she was on the verge of self-destruction by being in its center. Soon, he sets about healing her pointless injuries, but deep down, he admits that the explosion had potential. He analyzes that had it been an ordinary person, the magic would have weakened as soon as it was cast. Next, he requests to check her hand, and in sheer confusion, she obliges. To her astonishment, he places his hand on hers, and when she protests, he assures her that it is not like what she thinks. He puts her hand in an upright position and emphasizes that she should use magic in that state. He further explains that he will try to adjust her magic flow by using his magic. Perfect. Nothing complicated about adjusting magic flow through hand-holding. She is amazed at his expertise, so he coquettishly expresses to be praised in a better way. Next, he tells her to use the same explosion magic. She apprehensively obliges and then generates a powerful tunnel of magic. Hooli lauds her effort and mentions that he was expecting such brilliance from her. He believes that it is still unstable, but her explosion magic can become amazing with practice. She blushes and declares she is the best after all. Hooli finds her immensely attractive and easily readable. He decides to make her try one more time, but she screams irritably about his holding her hand so tightly. He quickly apologizes and explains that since there is no other way to touch, controlling his magic is becoming difficult. He elaborates that for the magic adjustment to be completely aligned, she has to bear with it. So when he fumbles with her abs again with both their clasped hands, she freaks out, yelling at him that he is coming too close and that he is pulling her leg again. But he remains indifferent to her wails and requests her to concentrate. Sweating hard, she wonders whether he will cut her power. Suddenly, he exclaims in delight that they are almost there. A bewildered Cornelia notices that her scared sword is gleaming brightly, probably loving his intense stare. He announces that they are grasping her power more and more. However, his grip on her hand is tightening further, making her cry in agony as he feels that she is at her limit. Finally, the magic flow has been adjusted to his satisfaction. He stares at her delightfully, but for some reason, she seems insanely flushed and disheveled. He instantly pulls away, releasing her hand. A distraught Cornelia releases her magic again with supersonic strength, and he witnesses the destructive power of that magic that is equal to that of a grand mage. So, at the time when Huli met Cornelia for the very first time, she points out to him that staring directly into a knight's eye seems kinda disrespectful. He bashfully reasons that he never meant it that way. He recalls her smug expression when he confessed to her and gave her flowers. She casually defends herself by guessing that he might have performed that act several times and wonders why he is so hyped about that. He coyly admits that she is his first love interest, so that's why he is totally clueless about the whole thing. Cornelia smiles blushingly because secretly his revelation has made her happy. In the heart of the royal capital, a bored Cornelia strolls aimlessly, thinking that even Huli didn't show up that day. Suddenly, a child passes by, wishing to have some cake. Her mother assures her that she can have it on her birthday the next day. It dawns on her about the significance of that day, and she had completely forgotten about it. Suddenly, someone calls out to her. She turns around to find Huli rushing towards her in a frenzy. She is curious about his unusual behavior and is quite perturbed about his determined, rather cool stare. He gravely points out the beautiful weather, and she irritably realizes that he is just blabbering unnecessarily. Confused, she affirms, thinking why the crazy guy has a warrior-like expression on his face just to have some random chit-chat. She also notices that he is hiding something behind his back. She guesses that it might be a blade, and probably he wants to challenge her to a fight. Rumors are spreading about assassins killing high-ranking adventurers by pretending to be their fans. She wonders whether he got close to her having malicious intentions. However, she is completely prepared for the worst. Like a bolt from the blue, he unleashes a package from behind and wishes her happy birthday. Cornelia is taken aback, so he sheepishly reveals that he learnt about her special day from the Adventurers Guild and rushed to celebrate with her. He presents her with the package, mentioning that a necklace is inside. He elaborates that he has imbued it with some magical enchantments in case she finds it useless. The poor lad is so nervous that he keeps on jibber-jabbering. She is relieved and realizes that she was just overthinking, as she never celebrated her birthday before. She shoots him a quick thank you and walks away to his surprise. Although he feels that her response was flat, he is glad that at least she accepted his gift. The following night, she opens the box and pulls out the delicate necklace. She recalls how birthdays were given the least importance in her household, as her father always focused on her training. She adorns the necklace and smiles as her whole self is dazzled by its beauty. So for an hour, she keeps on fidgeting like that, blushingly staring at her reflection. Truly, the strongest knight defeated at last, by jewelry. The next day, the duo is busy creating a crystal. Huli wonders about her plans after that and is hesitantly about to suggest something they both can do. But before that, Cornelia informs him that she has some shopping to do and offers him to come along. A surprised Huli readily affirms. Blushing hard, he wonders whether that trip can be termed as a date. To his immense shock, she escorts him to a weapons shop, where she expresses her excitement to see their new inventory. He notices her animatedness on seeing that stuff. She even suggests he buy something, as it was the best time to stock up. Suddenly, her eyes shine brilliantly on spotting something, and soon she is carrying a sparkling morning star that she feels suits him the best. He is greatly perplexed about her idea, so she explains that he can knock out many enemies conveniently by spinning it around. He is not sure about her harmless-looking explanation. Quite amused, she narrates an incident in which she swung an iron ball over her head, which gave her a chipped skull. He is startled at the happy expression on her face, despite recalling a horrific incident. Noting his disinterest, she begins rummaging for something else. He politely mentions how he would like to see something himself, but she ignores him and picks out a mighty scythe. He is quite puzzled about her choice. She swings the sharp blade carelessly and claims that it looks quite strong. He mocks her for rendering such a simple explanation. She recalls how she used to pluck out the goblin's eyes as a child by using a scythe. He expresses his curiosity about her strange affinity with the weapons. He ponders that he wasn't expecting such a wacky kind of shopping spree, but it suits her style though. She stares at him thoughtfully. When he inquires about it, she responds that he appears bored. She guesses that he probably doesn't require such kind of weapons or armor, and maybe is interested in something more lively. She declares that she cannot pretend to be feminine. When he appears shocked, she reckons that she had guessed correctly about his feelings. He rejects her allegation and claims that talking to one's beloved person and making them smile is the best part, so he is okay with her interests. Cornelia is baffled by his idea of being okay with her interests. In the next moment, she enthusiastically suggests he buy the Morning Star so that they can begin training with it. He realizes she's determined to buy it. Then she adds that she wants to discuss some scythe handling techniques too. The poor guy ends up buying both items because her smile is worth more to him than anything in the shop. One fine morning, Huli sets out to find Cornelia to complete a quest. However, he is not that worried, since it is a low-level quest. Suddenly she appears, calling out to him. He tells her that she is a bit late. A disheveled-looking Cornelia is all set to begin the quest, but he can tell she is quite under the weather. She denies and claims that she never gets sick. What follows is a spell of harsh cough, and it seems to him as if she is dying. He excuses himself and then begins to examine her forehead. He is shocked to discover that she is burning with a high fever. He insists they visit a doctor for a thorough checkup. A flustered knight wildly pushes him away, probing him about his actions, but he notices her fragile condition and is afraid that she will collapse soon. She tries hard to stay upright and declares that even though she is sick, she is still the strongest knight. When she claims that she never gives up, he jeers at her for putting up a fake show about her strength and well-being. To her alarm, he carries her in his arms. She tries to protest violently, but he curtly emphasizes that she needs to be taken by force. She mumbles about being on the heavy side due to her muscular build and insists it is not a big deal for her. He sincerely apologizes for striking her nerve. She bashfully orders him to put her down, as she is afraid to be seen like that. But he is not worried since he has taken the deserted back alley. He firmly explains that just like she behaves like a knight should, it is his duty to cater to a damsel in distress, especially when he is heavily in love with her. Annoyed, she wonders what he means by the word, so he quickly clarifies that he means heavily in love. She sarcastically acknowledges his sense of humor, and he amusingly accepts the consequences. In the end, she realizes that it is okay to be weak once in a while. Huli jumps with joy when Cornelia chops down a monster with one deadly swipe, just like he expected. He notes that even though it was a rare mushroom monster, she defeated it so easily. But to their alarm, Cornelia is engulfed by rapidly shooting mushroom spores. Terror-struck, he wonders about her well-being, but she is too dizzy to respond. When the spores finally settle, he notices her wobbling and quickly asks if she's all right. She happily says her body feels light and warm. Worried, he wonders if the spores had a hypnotic effect. It turns out they came across a special monster called the Desire Star Mushroom. She calls his name in a raspy voice and suddenly throws herself at him, a classic reaction to the spores, instantly becoming clingy and romantic. Laughing softly, she pulls him close and says she wants to see his face. He panics when he realizes the spores were actually an aphrodisiac, not a hallucinogen. Seeing him blush, she teases him for being pathetic. Just then, another mushroom monster wanders in, but Cornelia swiftly slices it down, complaining that the useless thing ruined the best part. Huli is terrified to witness the scary holy sword. To his alarm, more spores spew out, enclosing him rapidly. Cornelia is startled by Huli's eerie quietness. She becomes distraught, thinking that no man could be attracted to a masculine woman like her. In the next moment, Huli grips her shoulders and suddenly jolts, his pupils spinning wildly as if he's fallen into a trance. He animatedly denies her allegation and claims that she turns him on. Emotionally charged, he confesses again. Immediately, he thrusts his head back and lets out an enormous scream. Then, he wildly pulls her closer to him, announcing that he cannot take it anymore. He pushes himself dangerously closer to her face, and a reluctant Cornelia resists hard until tears begin to flow from her single eye. He puckers his lips expectantly, when suddenly he is sent flying up in the sky by her massive blow. She yells at him at the top of her lungs, reprimanding his boldness and cheekiness. It is then revealed that the Desire Star Mushroom's power is to confuse its enemy by releasing its spores as an aphrodisiac, which, despite being quite powerful, lasts only a minute. One day, while heading home from shopping, Cornelia spots Huli. She smiles to herself, thinking that, coincidentally, she has never started a conversation with him before. She decides to do so, being in a merry mood that day. However, she is taken aback when a strange young woman pops up from his side. She stares at them curiously, wondering whether she is acquainted with him. She nervously guesses that a guy like him might have a lot of friends, but she has this uncomfortable feeling about their uncanny proximity, and a pang of fury strikes her. She can see his unusually dazzling smile and can see that the woman is clinging to him abnormally. She is surprised by how one needs to clench someone so tightly despite having 2 feet of their own. She enviously glances at the girl's long hair and pretty face. She admits that she is quite feminine. Unconsciously, she compares herself with that pretty maiden and calls herself garbage. On the other hand, Huli expresses his discomfort about the girl walking too close to him, as that is causing difficulty for him. But the girl boldly declares they are close anyway. Meanwhile, even an irritable Cornelia can see how she is shamelessly glued to him. The girl coyly places her head on his shoulder and wonders whether that day feels like a date to him. Huli lightheartedly shuns her idea. Cornelia stares at them with fiery eyes, recalling how Huli had mentioned earlier that he was into muscular girls like her. She clenches her fist tightly, and when the flaming damsel sets off for a small trip to a nearby store, Cornelia grabs his neck by digging in her bionic fingers. A bewildered lad nervously greets her, but without responding, she drags him along with her, thwacking his head on the pole unconsciously on their way. On reaching a dead end, she intimidatingly smashes the wall behind her with her bionic arm. She icily inquires about that strange woman. When he fumbles with words, she compels him to speak while she can think straight. He giggles nervously, trying to calm her down and pondering hard about his crime. Tears well up in her eyes as she hysterically urges him to tell her. Huli is shocked since, according to his knowledge, jealousy was quite unknown to her till that day, and since it is her first time experiencing that emotion, she is throwing a tantrum like a child. She keeps probing him about that strange girl. First-time jealousy, coming in hot with maximum dramatic flair. Out of the blue, the sound of footsteps of heavy boots lingers around, along with someone querying Cornelia about her actions. She placidly guesses Cornelia to be the sacred sword and coldly asks her to take her hands off Huli's shoulders. The young maiden claims that she has been looking for Huli but wasn't expecting him to be at a place like this. Next, she turns to Cornelia and confirms with her whether she is the sacred sword. When she affirms, the young lady lashes out at her for doing something so shady. A flabbergasted Huli intervenes, terming the whole thing a big misunderstanding, but like a lightning bolt, the young maiden strikes Cornelia on her face. She is about to strike again when Cornelia quickly grabs her mighty fist. She believes her opponent is no ordinary person. The young lady angrily warns her to stop messing with her big brother. Cornelia is taken aback by that shocking revelation. An annoyed Huli addresses the young girl as Achan and condemns her for her rudeness. She nervously explains her suspicion about Cornelia bullying him, but he clarifies that she isn't that type of person. Hesitantly, Cornelia asks Huli to introduce the girl. He apologizes for the confusion and introduces his martial arts sister as Henri Dent. An embarrassed Henri apologizes for her mistake. Meanwhile, Cornelia is trying to digest the whole wacky situation. A cooled-down Huli pats her sister for being a good girl and apologizes for getting mad at her. She doubts whether she is overthinking or Huli has creepily turned into a siscon. Still, she is relieved to learn that Henri turned out to be his little sister. Huli is perturbed about her furious behavior earlier and wonders whether he had done something to offend her. She bashfully admits that it was just a little test and that she cannot have him being afraid of her spirit. Also, learning about his little sister baffled her. With great enthusiasm, he vows to do his best to become a man strong enough to stand right next to her. Instantly, Henri, who is hiding behind Huli, calls out to her and then rudely sticks her tongue at her. Cornelia gasps in surprise, and a completely unaware Huli becomes anxious. But Cornelia quickly shrugs off the matter. A relieved Henri clasps her mouth shut. Cornelia advises Huli to detach from his sister, which makes him conscious again of whether something happened. Thoroughly amused, Cornelia realizes that even Henri is a brocon. After a couple of days of meeting the Dent siblings, Cornelia is facing yet another issue. Eerily, Henri has been stalking her since. One day she catches her red-handed and curtly asks her why she is trailing her. Henri chuckles smugly and mentions that her detective skills impress her. Cornelia sarcastically advises her to improve her hiding skills. To Cornelia's astonishment, she challenges her to a duel. Now Cornelia doesn't mind, but demands a reason for the fight, since that is common courtesy. Henri becomes embarrassed and admits that she was being too hasty. Cornelia is glad the gal is easily convinced. Henri warns her fiercely to stay away from her brother. Cornelia clarifies that it is her brother who follows her. She reveals how he kept on rambling about her beautiful abs and even made a confession. Henri freaks out at that unusual revelation and calls Huli a real fool. Cornelia agrees with her in that regard. Henri recalls how, in the past, he was interested in muscular women. However, if that ridiculous fact is ignored, then according to her, Huli is an amazing brother. Cornelia can see how much she has ignored. Still, Henri is adamant about having a match with her. Seeing her strength, Cornelia gives up and decides to give her a battle. She sincerely hopes the little sis can handle it. Henri claims that it will be a piece of cake for her, and she wonders how long she can keep her calm. To her immense humiliation, her pants rip off from behind. Her eyes well up on seeing her clothes ripped off, and she wonders how that happened. She quickly covers her bare body and is worried that, at this rate, her chest will be exposed as well. Cornelia is surprised at her clothes ripping off suddenly since she, being a martial artist, is supposed to be fit. Tearfully, Henri admits to eating 20 pieces of cake earlier. A startled Cornelia calls her an idiot. Flushing hard, Henri reveals that she needed her calorie intake for the big fight with her. So this duel is powered by a sugar-fueled diet plan. Cornelia explains that there is a limit to everything and she was actually being a glutton. Out of the blue, Cornelia throws her jacket at her and asks her to put it on. Henri is thoroughly surprised at her mature attitude. Cornelia decides to put off the fight till everything is settled and calls it a day. A flustered Henri screams at her for acting like Huli. She dashes away in a frenzy, emphasizing that she is letting her off the hook for this time only, which surprises Cornelia because Henri hasn't done anything yet. Cornelia is greatly perplexed by her odd behavior and is unable to get it out of her mind. Henri suddenly turns around and expresses her plan to thank her one day properly. Cornelia admits she is at least somewhat sincere, so, for some reason, even if it was for a while, they got along. On reaching the end of a deep and dark forest, Cornelia warns Huli about not letting his guard down, as a swarm of goblins is waiting to pounce on them. Instantly, her sentence is full stopped by a hiccup. Huli grows concerned, but she keeps on rambling about how they have to give their best shot, followed by another hiccup. Quite flushed, it dawns on her that she is going through a spell. She tries unsuccessfully to hide them, but they are quite obvious to an amused Huli, who thinks that she looks pretty cute in her endeavors. They are greatly relieved when finally they are on the verge of leaving, but their peace is short-lived as they are invaded by a horde of goblins. She feels that they are really troublesome. Immediately, she instructs Huli to get behind her and use his magic to distract them. Meanwhile, she decides to act as a vanguard to open a path forward. He notices her hiccups in the middle, and it is so cute that he is left speechless. He makes up his mind to realize the gravity of the situation. Between an insane spell of hiccups, Cornelia expertly thwarts the goblins with her holy sword. While pointing her sword at the last goblin, she dramatically claims that their misfortune began the moment they faced her and is all set to finish it off when full stopped by a nosy hiccup. In a state of hysteria, she crushes the monster to pulp, and Huli cannot help but pity that goblin. She rubs her numb arm, thinking she got too carried away. But Huli praises her efforts just as he was expecting from a skilled knight like her. She highlights his efforts as well. Huli almost expected her to hiccup, and as predicted, she tries to stifle one after expressing her gratitude to him. He believes that now she cannot avoid the subject since he just heard her hiccuping right on his face. She has been noticing his smirk for some time and sharply inquires about it. He bashfully denies the whole thing. She angrily claims that he has been getting the wrong idea the whole time. She openly denies hiccuping during the goblin quest and restrains him from making any assumptions. But what follows is a stubborn hiccup. She clasps her mouth in humiliation. Folly grins knowingly, and then with his magical touch, her hiccups stop, but her evergreen tantrums begin. An irritable Cornelia notices her stiff shoulders, and Huli guesses that this might be because they had performed a lot of high-level quests lately. She readily agrees, and is taken aback when he offers her a massage. She weakly refuses, but he insists that she should give it a shot. Next, he gets her seated and then places his hands on her shoulders. Cornelia feels a bolt of electricity strike her on his touch. He wonders whether something is wrong, but she nervously denies it since it didn't feel bad. She can't believe that a massage is supposed to give such a good feeling. She quickly clasps her mouth to restrain herself from releasing embarrassing sounds. Huli can feel her tightened shoulders while massaging them. She squirms uneasily, secretly telling him not to overdo it. Next, he decides to work on any stiffness around the lower back. An electrified Cornelia immediately warns him that the back area is off-limits. She suspects that he intentionally wants to rummage through her whole body. He becomes dead sincere and insists that this is for her own good since she is pushing her body too hard. He claims he actually wants to care for her. She becomes ashamed of her hastiness and apologizes. She fidgets nervously as his fingers glide through her sides. He points out her cloak, causing a hurdle while rubbing, and decides to slide it a little. She hysterically tells him to stop and restrains him from seeing her back. He is surprised at her reluctance. She sheepishly claims that he is the only one whom she doesn't want to see. Poor Huli is bewildered to hear that. Distraught, he hides his face in his hands, as he didn't know he was so horrible. Bashfully, she clarifies that she didn't mean that. To his delight, she allows him to lift her cloak and give her a quick rub. He is completely shocked to see a hideous leaf-like scar on her back. Ashamed, she tells him not to stare at the scar too much. She explains that she got it while escaping a difficult situation. After a meaningful pause, Huli assures her that he doesn't mind it at all. He adds that, even if anyone tries to jabber about how she got it by fleeing, he will teach them a lesson and will emphasize how she acquired it by enduring so much pain for everyone else's sake. His speech leaves her in a stupor. After a while, her body feels fit as a fiddle as she delightfully moves her shoulders around. Grinning, he warns her that the feeling is short-lived. She smiles and thanks him for everything. Huli's ears prick up on the word everything, so she bashfully tells him to forget her words. To his astonishment, she offers to give him a massage next. Huli is doubtful about that, but she compels him to sit down and accept her offer. It is then that he completely forgot that in Cornelia's dictionary, the word restraint doesn't exist. After going through a grueling quest, both Cornelia and Huli sit down to catch their breath. Huli exclaims that they haven't had a break in a while and believes that it must be particularly tiring for her being a vanguard. He suggests taking a break to plan their next strategies. He anxiously notices her odd silence and wonders whether something is up. He emphatically decides not to bother her with unnecessary chatter and enjoys the amazingly pleasant weather that day. Unexpectedly, her head falls on her shoulder. To his perplexity, he cries in disbelief on seeing her dozing off just like that. He gets panic-stricken, wondering whether he should wake her up, but then considers the possibility of infuriating her. It is then she calls out his name, and when he turns to her, she is still fast asleep. He realizes that even her sleep talk is very cute, and guesses that she might be dreaming about him. She suddenly blurts out about him being too annoying, and he miserably reckons that even in her dreams, she finds him like that. He smiles warmly, making up his mind to enjoy the moment as much as he can by letting her sleep. He wishes for the moment to last a bit longer. Time passes, and Cornelia is suddenly awake, completely confused about the whole situation. Miserably, she realizes that she messed up big time and that she shouldn't have dozed off like that. She analyzes that she felt so calm being right next to him. She is astonished to see him doze off, and then relief flows into her on the thought of being safe. A mischievous thought strikes her that the situation has reversed now, and if she wakes him up now, he would think that falling asleep was all just a vague dream. Suddenly, his wobbly head falls on her shoulder. She is about to get hysterical when her gaze falls on his peaceful face. Sure, nothing alarming about a fully grown man suddenly using your shoulder as a pillow. She groans and decides to let him off the hook this time, once. So in the end, they both are able to enjoy a quiet afternoon nap all by themselves. The duo finds themselves stuck on a rainy day, and it appears that even the lightning is cackling fiercely. He notices her unusual silence and probes her about it, but she denies. Unexpectedly, there is a bone-chilling thunderclap shaking Huli to the core. He is thoroughly shocked to see a terror-struck Cornelia shivering like a leaf. Amused, he wonders whether she is afraid of lightning. An offended Cornelia denies his allegation, claiming that nothing scares her off. But he points out to her, tightly grasping her other arm. Instantly, there is another deafening thunderclap, making her shudder incessantly. Despite being on the verge of tears, she is in complete denial. Finally, she gives in and decides to tell him the reason why she is terrified of lightning. He is curious about her having any special memory attached to it. She mentions that it is not that special, and begins that, one day, while she was practicing her swings and stances on a rainy day, a lightning bolt struck her hard. Luckily, the lightning bolt was weak and didn't cause any real harm. Still, Huli worries, since he's never heard of weak lightning, and asks if her head is really okay. Cornelia insists it wasn't traumatic, but Huli isn't convinced. Suddenly, a massive thunderclap hits right beside them, proving the universe wants her fear exposed. Even Huli flinches, covering his ears and checking on her. Cornelia, shaken, collapses to the ground, weakly saying her hips gave out. Huli anxiously asks if she can stand. She warns him not to tell anyone. When he looks confused, she explains that if people knew she got scared, the reputation of the sacred sword would suffer. She looks genuinely ashamed, so he promises to be careful. She's startled when he adds that he actually wants to keep the secret to himself. Grinning, he says she always tries to be Miss Perfect, and he's glad to be the only one who knows this hidden side of her. She stares at him, blushes furiously, and quickly leaves him behind. Later, she tells him to come closer so she won't have to shout complaints across the distance. He agrees, noticing she acts differently with him until the rain finally stops. An enthusiastic Huli urges Cornelia to undergo a rigorous training regimen. She confirms with him whether he is actually in it, to which he affirms excitedly. She casually mentioned that she won't be changing her regular workout regimen just because of him. She emphasizes that she won't be slowing down to his pace. He claims that he can handle exercising despite looking like a weakling. Plus, he wants to see her getting rough. To begin it, she orders him to do 500 push-ups as a warm-up activity. Huli is alarmed and exclaims that for warming up, that's quite a high digit. She tells him that it is normal and compels him to start while crunching her body up and down flawlessly. The classic motivational technique, make the weakling question every life choice. A flabbergasted Huli tries to catch up with her, and after it is done, he is devastated when she tells him to do 500 sit-ups followed by 500 squats. Noticing his hypertensive condition, she warns him about a tougher regimen ahead and advises him to go home. An exhausted lady's not surprised and was expecting a grueling workout from her side. He is determined not to give up and doesn't want her to see him in such a pathetic state. Next, they are in for 1,000 sword swings. After the 1,000th swing, a drenched Huli informs her that he is done with the warm-up exercises. She is startled to see him sweat so much from merely warming up. He groans in agony when she suggests running 10 kilometers. In the end, a fully drained Huli isn't able to complete even half of it, just like he expected. Dejectedly, he calls himself worthless, but he hopes that she acknowledges his meager effort. Cornelia informs him that up until now, only a few people have approached her for training, but all of them would keep on whining and give up halfway. She claims he is the first to reach the end without a single complaint. Flustered, she acknowledges his earnest stupidity. When he expresses his thought that it would be natural to go through this training without complaining, she emphasizes that there are a lot of sissies who can't get through. He is still perplexed and wonders why he would complain when he could see her exercising. When she appears baffled, he clarifies that her sight was a soother for sore eyes, and he could even have paid money for that. He lauds her beautiful muscles and terms them national treasures, especially her abs, her glutes, and her lower back. He admits he had the pleasure of enjoying those terrific 3 that day. He saw her working hard with those, and he is certain that they eased out the workout regimen for her. In a euphoric state, he declares that being able to see her lovely form doing an intense workout was a great experience for him, so gazing at abs is a valid alternative to oxygen intake during exercise. He insists she let him work out with her again. She smirks at the cheesy reason that made him grind himself like that. She teasingly suggests doing some more hands-on training since he enjoys x-raying her body so much. A distressed Huli protests, saying his muscles are all sore and he is unable to move even a step, but she tells him not to be shy and highlights that she will use most of her strength for this reason. A hapless Huli groans in agony. One day, Huli is looking for Cornelia when suddenly she calls out to him, shielding her head with her hands. She apologizes for being late, but he expresses his curiosity about her uncanny pose, since the weather seems quite pleasant. She lashes out at him for being too inquisitive. He still expresses his concern about whether she got injured. When she refutes, he insists, taking a look at it personally, claiming that he is genuinely worried about her. She irritably explains that this pose is meaningless and he is just being a worrywart, but her explanation further ignites his curiosity. To prove her point, she removes her hands but looks in another direction. He is not convinced and wonders why she is facing away. When she doesn't respond, he politely probes her more, but in vain. Distressed, he guesses that she probably doesn't want to see his face. She completely denies his allegation. He apologizes to her for having to bear with him, but she insists this isn't the issue. Dejectedly, he loses his interest in work that day and wishes to go home, so she has no choice but to let the cat out of the bag. She faces him and explains that she had cut her bangs a little too short, thus messing up her whole hairdo. Seeing his puzzled face, she narrates that morning she was preparing herself for their meetup, but then she chopped off her bangs too much. She tried to fix it, but it was no good. She blames her drowsiness for this mishap. Otherwise, she is usually very careful. She tearfully admits that she appears quite weird, so he assures her that he doesn't care about such trivial stuff. But she has observed that her odd appearance stunned him. He is taken aback, but then exclaims animatedly that she looks super cute. Now this is the least expected of her, so she is slightly relieved. Encouraged, he butters up further that she can make any hairstyle work on her. He insists that she display more new looks before him instead of keeping them camouflaged. She acknowledges his excitement and tells him to stop for now. Apparently, she is so humiliated by being complimented that she wants to kill herself. That day, Cornelia is feeling exhausted, and since she doesn't have any quests in her kitty, she decides to head home and rest. She is afraid of catching a cold, which might set a bad example for others. She is feeling slightly chilly, and her body is getting heavier. Suddenly someone calls out, addressing her as Miss Sacred Sword. A strange veiled woman called Sariella, the fortune teller, requests her for some qualms in return for revealing her fortune. Cornelia is suspicious of that eerie woman, but the lady appreciates her straightforward approach. Cornelia wards her off by saying that she has no issues, so she should stop making assumptions about her. Sariella stares at her thoughtfully, then mentions a certain gentleman who is stirring her heart lately. A shocked Cornelia turns to her and probes her inquisitively. The woman giggles and claims she knew just by looking at her. She reveals the rumors that are currently circulating about her abrupt mood change and that she has been often seen with a man. Cornelia completely denies the whole situation, claiming that this could be a coincidence, but an amused Sariella is not convinced. When Cornelia hysterically insists, she decides to believe her. She even points out Cornelia's current physical appearance, which wouldn't be able to sustain a man for long anyway. Slightly offended, she demands an explanation for her blunt remark. Sariella claims that she can foresee her future ordeals and then requests that she visit her mansion so that she can thoroughly predict her future. Cornelia agrees and walks along with her, only to be spotted by a puzzled Huli, who wonders about the unknown lady walking beside her. He is confused because it is quite unusual for Cornelia to be with someone like that. Once Cornelia enters the mansion, she finds it quite mysterious. The sultry Sariella winks and welcomes her to her humble abode. But Cornelia curtly probes her about her prior offensive statement about her being unable to hold a man for long. Sariella is quite amused at her suddenly ignited interest. She stares at her creepily, trying to find the right words, and that makes Cornelia suspect her more. Sariella settles in and immediately senses Cornelia's growing interest in Huli. When Cornelia looks confused, Sariella teases her, saying she entered a mysterious place just to learn about her future with the man she loves. Cornelia begins to notice something strange as a mist slowly surrounds her. Flustered, she snaps at Sariella for making fun of her, but Sariella only laughs eerily, calling her adorable. Cornelia then realizes the mist is coming from an incense holder nearby. Sariella admits she lied earlier about Cornelia being unable to keep a man, though she can predict the future. As the fumes spread, Cornelia starts feeling weak. Sariella triumphantly declares that the incense has finally taken effect. Cornelia curses at her, but Sariella ignores it, pointing out that Cornelia would have avoided this trap if she had been her usual alert self. She explains that the thick mist drains a person's strength and reveals her true identity, a dark elf. Cornelia freezes in shock, remembering that dark elves were once considered beings of pure darkness. Sariella prepares to begin whatever she has planned and assures her it will be over soon. Meanwhile, Huli has secretly followed them into the mansion, knowing it belongs to dark elves, powerful enemies of humans. Huli becomes anxious because Cornelia hasn't come out of the mansion yet. He feels something fishy is going on inside and decides to investigate. He wonders whether it's okay for him to peek inside a bit. To his horror, he hears Cornelia's distressful cries, indicating she is in danger. Instantly, he barges in, anxious about her well-being. But another shocker awaits him as he discovers Cornelia getting a wholesome body massage from a dark elf. Sariella exclaims in joy on seeing another customer and requests him to wait as she is busy with one already. A bewildered Huli wonders about the cringed scene before him. Meanwhile, Cornelia is completely shocked to see him. Sariella guesses that he might be acquainted with her. An embarrassed Cornelia is aware of her near-bare state, so she warns Huli not to look at her, or else he will die. An amused Sariella assures Huli that the incense has made her completely immobile. Next, she nosily inquires whether he is Cornelia's rumored fiancé. Huli is unprepared for another knockout, but Cornelia tries to condemn her for her nosiness. However, she is cut short by Sariella's intense swipe, indicating she has to shut up since they are still in the middle of a treatment. Huli admits the sentiment is one-sided from his side. Cornelia screams at him for being so honest. When Sariella expresses curiosity about how the flame was ignited between the two, he begins to narrate the whole thing from scratch when interrupted by a screaming Cornelia. Sariella tries to zip her up again, but Cornelia refuses to budge. Sariella chuckles and claims that he finds the whole thing very comical. She thinks Huli is trying too hard. Next, she makes a shocking revelation about giving Cornelia a dispelling massage to protect her. When Huli appears surprised, she explains that she is a master of fortunes and magic. She elaborates that there are many ways humans can contract curses, and one method used to dispel those curses is to massage them out. Usually, in cases, many demons and monsters curse their enemies while dying. Most curses are invisible, but in Cornelia's case, because she has killed so many, the curse had built up and was overpowering her. Sariella teases that Cornelia is a rare case who still managed to make such a nice sound despite being weighed down. Cornelia grumbles, but admits the sluggish feeling is gone. She finds it strange that the curses vanished so completely, almost as if erased. Sariella then points out another effect of the dispelling massage. Cornelia's beauty has noticeably improved. She denies it, but Sariella laughs, saying she is easy to read. Cornelia then asks why Sariella had to paralyze her instead of simply explaining things. Sariella chuckles and reminds her that she's a dark elf. No matter her intentions, people will always distrust her. Tricking someone and bringing them in for treatment is simply efficient. Huli quietly agrees that dark elves are naturally sly, though Sariella's kindness still shows. When Cornelia thanks her, Sariella asks for payment. Huli steps forward, introduces himself, and offers a handshake. Sariella is surprised. No one has ever asked her for one. She warns him she's a dark elf and that he doesn't need to act friendly, but she's touched when he calmly says her race doesn't matter and that he simply thinks she's a wonderful person. She giggles, calling him smooth, and accepts his handshake. The moment he takes her hand, she suddenly pulls him into her chest, happily saying she now understands why Cornelia opened her heart to him. She explodes in anger, shouting at her to back off. Sariella teasingly promises Huli VIP treatment if Cornelia ever throws him out, while she screams at her in outrage. Romance, chaos, and dark elf spa services, all in one afternoon.